Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a review on Portrait of a Lady. This is from Frederic Malle. The nose behind it is Dominique Rapoin, and it is beloved, legendary, classic. There's a lot of thoughts and feelings that go around this fragrance, and I definitely want to review it and talk about those feelings with you guys. So if you'd like to know more about this fragrance, then keep watching. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a review of this fragrance, and then closer to the end I'm going to tell you guys about my feelings on it and why I feel like it is such a beloved fragrance. So let's start off with the notes. The notes in this fragrance are rose, blackcurrant, raspberry, cinnamon, clove, patchouli, sandalwood, incense, ambroxan, and white musk. Now, if you haven't ever smelled this fragrance before, at a glance or at a really quick sniff, it smells like a really robust, kind of jammy, somewhat tart, musky rose fragrance. It's got the spice, it's got the wood, it's got the rose. There's a lot going on in there, and it comes together to be a very beautiful and classically mature scent. Now, when I'm talking about mature scents, I don't mean it in a negative way. Sometimes you hear mature, old lady, grandma. I don't think scents smell that way. I feel like when you're thinking about scents that maybe somebody you loved who is older would wear, you're thinking about classic scents with a lot of trends that would happen around the time that those people would wear their fragrances. Like, look at white florals and musk. Really heavy white florals and musk, specifically like gardenia and tuberose, smell very dated because they were very popular, and as we were growing up, we were probably bombarded with them. But when I'm talking about a mature fragrance, I'm talking about a fragrance that isn't youthful. There's nothing bright about it. There's nothing playful about it. It's a little bit more sensual, a little bit more serious, and there's a lot more going on with it. To me, youthful fragrances are a little bit more simplistic and minimalistic, and mature fragrances tend to be more complex with a lot more depth to them. And this is definitely one of those fragrances. Now, this is a fragrance that can be worn by anyone, any age, any gender, doesn't matter. You guys know I think fragrances are genderless, and I also think fragrances are ageless. You can be any age and wear whatever you want. But when it comes down to the composition of this fragrance, it just comes off as something that would be worn by somebody maybe in the evening, a little bit more elegant black tie, and it does come off a little bit more mature and sophisticated. It's a really beautiful fragrance. It's very powerful, and it's very just enrapturing and sensual and intriguing, and people are going to ask what you're wearing, and it's loved for a reason. Now, the longevity on this fragrance is pretty good. I get about 8 to 10 hours of wear, and the projection in the beginning is very strong. It's very enveloping. It fills a room, or at least leaves a cloud longer than your fingertips, and just gets a little bit more intimate and intimate and intimate as the time goes on. Now, going into this fragrance, I'm not going to be going too much into Dominique Rapoin because I'm going to be doing an entire video on my favorite noses, and I'm going to be dedicating a video to each nose, and he is going to be somebody I'm going to be talking about in depth. So do stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out in the next few weeks, hopefully by the end of the year. But when I'm talking about this fragrance, I actually want to talk about the composition of this fragrance and why it is so loved. Now, a lot of people, when you hear about rose fragrances, you're hearing about jammy roses, tea roses, wet roses, garden roses, big heavy roses, musky roses. Rose is one of those notes that can go so many different ways. And the thing that I like most about this fragrance is it has two of my favorite ways rose can go, which is jammy and big and bold and red and just unapologetic. This is an unapologetically rose fragrance, but it's not predominantly rose. A lot of times when I wear this fragrance, and it does change a little bit depending on the weather, it starts off as big and jammy and just sweet, and then it kind of turns a little bit more savory, and that's kind of a weird way to talk about fragrances, but I feel like if we're talking about like sweet and gourmand-esque, when we're talking about like fruits, when you start to get more of the woods into it, and you start to get more of the spices into it, and the ambroxan and the musk, it kind of turns it less sweet and just kind of more of a nice blend or balance of not too sweet and more just straight rose. I know, that sounds crazy, but that's the beauty of this fragrance. The thing about this fragrance is from start to finish, you're gonna get a rose fragrance. This is a rose fragrance, but this rose fragrance isn't just jammy rose, isn't just red rose, isn't just sweet, tart, fruity opening, and isn't just a musky base. It has a nice lifespan to it, and it develops on the skin quite beautifully. And what I like most about this fragrance is it's a little bit different every single time, depending on where you spritz it, the weather, the time of day, the time of year. The little nuances and background notes in this really come out. In colder weather, I get a little bit more of the spice. In hotter weather, or hot weather as how it always is where I live, I get a little bit more of the musk. And the woods become a little bit more predominant in the colder weather than in the hot weather. So what I get in the summertime is a beautiful musky jammy rose, and a lot of times in the winter I'm going to be getting kind of a big red heady, just completely strong enveloping rich velvety rose with a little bit of jam and tartness, but a lot of musk and wood and sweetness from the spices. Because although the spices are spice, when you think of cinnamon and clove, it doesn't come off so much as spice, like say maybe cumin or coriander or sage or rosemary or thyme. It's actually kind of more, since it's used in a lot of sweets, it comes off a little bit more sweet. Now, although the musk is more predominant in the winter, with the woods and the spices that come out, it actually blends really nicely, so it is still a very musky rose, but it is balanced out more with that the woods and the spices. I feel like Portrait of a Lady is the perfect name for this fragrance. This fragrance reminds me of is if you're going into some manor or some grand house, and the mistress of the house just has a beautiful, attractive, very handsome portrait of her painted. She's just meticulously elegant and beautiful and sophisticated, and just everything about her, there's not a hair out of place, and she's just handsome. I don't want to say beautiful or gorgeous, like handsome, like a handsome woman. This is what I feel like that portrait would smell like. And so the name of this is absolutely beautiful. Although this is more on the mature side because it's a little bit musky and heavier, and I actually find jammy roses to be a little bit more mature and less playful and youthful, like maybe more of a garden rose or a tea rose or one of the wet dewy roses a la Roses de Chloe from Chloe. There's something about this fragrance that's really sensual and mysterious and just absolutely intoxicating, while at the same time it's still really easy to understand because it is a predominantly rose fragrance. I can understand the hype and the love around this fragrance because everything about this is perfect. There's, again, like that portrait, there's not a note that is out of place. Everything was meticulously chosen, expertly blended, and it really just comes together to create a beautiful, classic, timeless fragrance. And I really think that this is worth all the love and praise that it gets. So that's my review and thoughts on Portrait of a Lady. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, guys, if you like my fragrance reviews and you want more reviews from this line, make me recommendations and give this video a big ol' thumbs up. It lets me know to continue doing videos like this. As always, guys, I hope you're all happy and healthy and have a great day, month, year, whatever. And I'll see you next time. Bye!